Thank you. Let us be seated, please. The Maponya family, former President Thabo Mbeki, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, and Mrs. Gugu Motlanthe, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Thandi Modise, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, Mama Gracia Marcel, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, in absentia, Bishop Barnabas Lekhanyane, ministers and deputy ministers, premiers, members of parliament and members of the provincial legislatures, members of the diplomatic corps, leaders and members of the business fraternity, representatives of leaders from various religious organizations and leaders of civil society, dignitaries and fellow mourners. When Chichi called me to tell me that Dr. Richard Maponya had left us, I had no doubt in my mind, even before Premier Makura requested that we should grant Dr. Maponya an official funeral. I had no doubt in my mind that if there ever was a business leader who deserved this honor, it was Dr. Maponya. We are gathered here with saddened and heavy hearts as we come to bid farewell to one of South Africa's finest sons. We are also here to celebrate a well-led life. Today we bid a sad farewell to a man of extraordinary resilience who rose above his circumstances and persevered until he reached the pinnacle of success. And yet he remained humble, magnanimous, and generous. South Africa indeed has lost a visionary business leader who continued with his visionary talent right up to his last days. We have lost a most outstanding entrepreneur. The Maponya family have lost a father, a grandfather, an uncle, a brother. Those who knew and loved Dr. Maponya have lost a confidant, a mentor as we had, and a comrade. On behalf of the government and the people of South Africa, I convey my deepest condolences to the family, to the business community, and to the people of Soweto, a place for which he held the deepest affection and where he began his journey into the business world. Richard Maponya was one of the most devoted of our country's patriots. He loved his country and he loved her people. He was a soldier, not on the battlefield, but at the front line of the struggle for the economic emancipation of his people, a struggle that endures to this day. He was a fighter for the liberation of black South Africans from the shackles of poverty, from the manacles of marginalization, and from the chains of economic exclusion. There have been others today and during the memorial who expounded on his life and shared their memories of a man whose personality was larger than life and who has left such a deep impact on all those who got to know him. He was truly a man who lived for others. He was a business person, yes, but he was driven by the conviction that South Africa would never be truly free until the fruits of prosperity were shared by all its people. He stood for self-upliftment and in doing for oneself. He inspired a whole new generation of business people, some of whom are here today and some of whom also spoke. He took them under his wing and they became people who stood on his shoulders. One of the outstanding things that he did was to give courage to many. Despite his stature as the doyen of black business, he was always there with a hand to pull up those who stood below. Having scaled the heights, he wanted to see others alongside him on the rostrum of success. Dr Maponya was always pushing back the frontiers, agitating for more to be done to support small business and encouraging more people to take the great and daunting leap into entrepreneurship. From his earliest days and long before it became a popular term, he demonstrated the qualities of responsible corporate citizenship. He did not hoard the gains that he had made over his decades in business, but plowed much of it back into the communities in which he operated. And it was quite heartwarming to hear his son relating how Dr Maponya, through the institute that he had started, wanted to spread the skills, wanted to ensure that black entrepreneurs became successful business people. He did not see corporate social investment as an exercise in box ticking, but as an imperative to transform the racialized patterns of our economy. During the apartheid era, he saw black business as part of the broad liberation movement to advance economic freedom. He believed in this so much that even his horse, another color, was clothed in the colors of the movement that he so loved. In a democratic South Africa, he saw the role of business as that of a partner to government, assisting to resolve the challenges of unemployment, poverty, and underdevelopment. Those who knew him will remember him for being forthright and a straight talker. He did not have a forked tongue. He put things directly and as straightforwardly as he saw them. He did not hesitate to chide us or even criticize us when he felt we were going off course, but always did so from a position of principle, not from a position of malice. He was alive to the challenges of our country, but always urged us to do more, to go the extra mile, to improve the operating environment for business, especially small business. I personally received many a late call from him, sharing his viewpoint on one or another pressing issue of the day. In my very last engagement with him, he urged me to do everything I can to see his greatest dream realized, to set up a youth entrepreneurship academy. It is a wish that I will endeavor to see fulfilled on his behalf. What I will remember most from these conversations is that he did not intellectualize problems. He did not simply rant on and on or speak in vague terms. He always ended these discussions by saying, "Here, this is what I can do. This is what I will do. This is what I have. Yes, send me and I will do it." He knew that in building the society that we all want, business must take the lead in coming up with solutions to the unemployment crisis, and that we can only prevail if we work together. He was a great and passionate networker, forging partnerships, not just locally but across the continent and the world. He believed that to nurture a national culture of self-employment, big business must do more through the training and building of entrepreneurs and by procuring goods and services from small businesses. He had boundless energy, and his passion was quite infectious. Not even the onset of ill health could have held him back. Retirement from him was not an option. I'm told that he would say, "For as long as the Lord has given me health, I'm going to work until the last day when they say, lala kahle." For Dr Maponya, resolving our country's challenges wasn't somebody else's problem or just government's problem. It was something that preoccupied him until the very end of his life. And we have had testimony to this effect from his son, who told us that he would be talking about the challenges, the poverty, unemployment to his very last days. 50 years ago, the very idea that a black person could build and own a shopping mall in the urban areas where young black men and women could socialize, eat, buy books, watch movies, would have been dismissed as a fantasy. And yet Richard Maponya did it and showed that it could be done. 50 years ago, if it had been said that a black husband and wife team could build a business empire, and a successful big business empire for that matter, with interests in some of the most important sectors of our economy, many people would have laughed at it. And yet Richard and his late wife, Marina Maponya, did it, and they showed it can be done. A mere 50 years ago, if a young black child told their teacher their ambition was to have their own business, and train and mentor other young black men and women to become entrepreneurs, they would have been dismissed as dreamers. And yet Richard Maponya proved that it can be done, and we thank him for that. If there is any lesson we take from the life of our departed friend, legend of black business, our icon, our father, it is that humble beginnings and adversity are no barriers to success. Dr Maponya was one person who understood that to get to the very top, you have to begin at the very bottom. He was born in Linyenye area near Tzaneen in Limpopo at a time when South Africa was a dominion of the British Empire. He lived through the excesses of colonial and apartheid rule and was witness to the systematic dispossession of black South Africans during both eras, colonialism and apartheid. In his 75 years as a businessman, he stared adversity in the face, but he always found a way under it, around it, and above it. His entrepreneurial flair began at an early age. When he was a young boy, he would divert water to his vegetable garden, providing food for his family and selling the surplus. The limitations and constraints of the time did not deter him as he embarked on his business career. There were many obstacles put in his path. Licenses were denied, permits were not granted, obtaining credit and land was not only a challenge but was impossible. His businesses were raided frequently by apartheid authorities looking for any excuse to penalize him or to close him down. But he did not take no for an answer as we had. His story is a window of the mean-spiritedness of the apartheid regime on the one hand, but a tale of triumph over adversity on the other. He was indeed a champion of black business. He was adamant that economic development begins in communities and saw the great potential of the township economy. There are times when we talk about the township economy that we want to see our townships moving away from just being dormitories where people go and work in the big cities and come back to the townships to sleep. Dr Maponya proved that the township economy can be made into a real economy. Like a true entrepreneur, he could always spot an opportunity. He tried his hand at many things. Some were successful, others less so, but he persevered. He was always prepared to acknowledge the contribution of others to his success, especially that of his beloved wife, Marina. And I'm sure today, if we were to ask him, he would also be acknowledging the contribution not only of his children, but of his grandchildren who kept getting the 100 rand from him. But the most important aspect of Dr Maponya's life was that he was an ethical and principled business person. He was appalled at the practices of some businesses that provided substandard services and inferior goods because the public they served were poor. He was fond of young people and always availed himself as a mentor. We heard from our sister Felicia Mabuza Sattle and our sister Wendy Luhabe that he mentored them. And we are proud and glad that through his mentorship, he has produced very successful sisters of our country. And we say thank you to him. He encouraged young people to be disciplined, to demonstrate initiative, and to be serious about training and study. He spoke often of the dangers of having a sense of entitlement and impressed upon young people about the virtues of hard work and of taking up opportunities, but most especially opportunities of educating themselves. We draw other lessons from his life. We learn that natural business acumen, admirable though it might be, is no substitute for sheer hard work. We learn that ambition must be tempered by humility, that when the going gets tough, you never give up or you never give in, because he never gave up and he never gave in. Above all, to draw from the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, we learn that it is in giving that we receive. Now, our dear Father has been called to his Maker. We mourn him, but we also pay tribute to the life that he lived. He has left behind a huge legacy that extends well beyond the brick and mortar of his companies. Through his struggles and successes, he forever changed the face of business in South Africa. In return for all he gave to his people and to this country, his head was anointed with oil and his cup did indeed overflow. And in the words of Psalm 23, surely goodness and mercy shall follow him, and he shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the history of this country, his life, his contribution, and his achievements will forever be remembered, and they will forever be celebrated. Farewell to you, Dr Maponya, our father, our grandfather, our brother, our patriot, friend, and great South African. And we are particularly pleased that you had two of your friends who are your peers. Ubaba Ushenge Utelezi, Lentate Mutsenyane. We're eternally proud that they were here to say goodbye to you. Until we meet again. Thank you very much.